Hello, CIRS family. This is Alan Grunning, and welcome to my talk, CIRS on a Budget. I'm expecting over the next 30 minutes to not only educate you, but also hopefully to inspire you. So let's jump right in. I'm going to be presenting scenarios of patients with CIRS that are underinsured and low income, provide an overview of the Southwest Florida Free Pain Clinic, review the screening test for CIRS, describe a template for diagnosing and treating CIRS patients in a free clinic, present patient outcomes of CIRS treatment in a free clinic, and then consider a template for treating CIRS patients in your practice that are underinsured and financially challenged. Disclosures: I have no significant financial disclosures other than the ownership of my medical practice, International Center for Health and Wellness. My background is that I'm board certified in emergency medicine and practiced that for 17 years, and I was an ER director for 10 years of that. I'm the owner, as I said, of the International Center for Health and Wellness located in beautiful Fort Myers, Florida since 2001. I'm also the founder of Christian Medical Ministries and the Southwest Florida Free Pain Clinic, which began in 2010. I'm a Shoemaker Proficiency Partner since 2019, but I've really been doing CIRS care for about 15 years. So I'm kind of one of the original people with this, and I've seen a lot of things over the years change, come and go, but I have been one of the ones that have stuck with Richie this entire time. I'm the author of Prescription for Health, Living a Balanced Life in a Toxic World, and I'm the founder of the Christian CIRS Network, which we'll talk a little bit about later, and I'm a Christian physician seeking to provide holistic care for body, mind, and spirit. So let's look at some case studies. Case study number 1. This was from 2018. So Stacy is a 44-year-old wife and mother who is in constant pain from fibromyalgia and polymyalgia rheumatica and virtually immobile. She has severe GI problems and is obese. Her family must help her up from the chair or bed, and she is mostly wheelchair bound, needing assistance to even feed herself or bathe. She's seen numerous medical providers in the past and had many ER visits, and she's failed all traditional treatments. Stacy has attempted numerous detox regimens and diets on her own with limited improvement. She takes many supplements. So I had her do a VCS test, which was positive, and then she had 7 out of 13 symptom clusters positive. She lived in a home in 2000 that had visible mold. She began falling in 2016 and had a workup for ALS that was negative. She developed an autoimmune eye disease and is slowly going blind. Stacy lives in a small home. Her husband does HVAC work. They have no health insurance. Her daughter is 15 and looks very sickly and has no energy. She has one natural teen with major developmental delays and one adopted teen with moderate autism. Where do you start? Case study number 2. This is recent, May of 21. Christina is 53, homeless, living in her van, and occasionally in friends' homes or relatives' homes around the country. She believes she has mold illness. She's been sick her entire life. She's been exposed multiple times to water-damaged buildings and provides great details of that. She has a prior diagnosis of fibromyalgia, multiple chemical sensitivity syndrome. She works part-time doing DoorDash. She has been to many practitioners and had many treatments over the years, and she's been using medical cannabis currently. She has MCSS. She also has many symptoms of mast cell disorder and can't find a place to live that she does not react to. Her brain function is terrible, and that's what's mostly concerning her. She travels 4 hours to get to see us and to get the medications that we're going to give her for free, and she does virtual visits other times. Her VCS is positive. She has every possible symptom. Her clusters were 13 out of 13. Her routine labs are okay, except her homocysteine was high. She has no CIRS labs because she can't afford them. She appears just to be an 11-352 by her appearance, and she's very hyperflexible. Case study 3. So this is from December of 2015. Aaliyah is a 26-year-old married hairstylist who has been feeling progressively worse with pain all over and has no energy. She's living in a 1920s home with leaks. Her work is in obvious water damage building. She has a history of PCOS and is on metformin, and she is unable to get pregnant. Her mom has fibro and is also a patient of mine. Her sister has similar symptoms, but is not local, and I haven't seen her yet. Her VCS is positive, and she again has nearly every positive symptom, 13 out of 13 clusters, and all of the fibro points. Her labs show that she has autoimmune thyroiditis, and she's hypothyroid. And there are no CIRS labs done because she can't afford it. So let's talk about the Southwest Florida Free Pain Clinic, where all these people are coming to see me. So we are a nonprofit 501c3 public charity established in 2010 as Christian Medical Ministries with a board of directors. It's part of the Florida Department of Health Volunteer Healthcare Provider Program. The eligibility criteria to come to our clinic are that they have to have no insurance, although Medicaid is okay. We don't advertise it because we don't want to be flooded with Medicaid patients, but we will see them. And they have to be under 200% of the federal poverty level. We are a sovereign immunity clinic, meaning that once patients come to us and meet the criteria, they sign a waiver giving us sovereign immunity. We cannot be sued. Only the state of Florida can be sued. So that's one of the draws for people to come and work here, is because we can actually have fun and take care of the patients and do kind of minimal documentation and not have to worry about malpractice and liability. We started in a donated church space. We're now in a leased medical office, sharing space with my medical practice. I have paid and volunteer staff, and we are the only known free pain clinic in the entire United States. No one else has ever done this. If any of you are interested to hear the story of how I got started with this on April 13th, 2010, and how God spoke to me, told me to do this, I'll be glad to share that story with you. You can contact me. This is our mission, vision, and statement of faith. We help restore hope for low-income uninsured patients through comprehensive evaluations and treatment plans using holistic, compassionate, and opioid-free care. In fact, our goal is to get people off of all these drugs. Our vision, we're rewriting the paradigm for low-income uninsured pain patients. We do have a statement of faith since we're a ministry, and it's the same one used by the Christian Medical and Dental Society. We provide care for body, mind, and spirit. It's very holistic, and we have no discrimination. We have patients of all faith that come to us, atheists. Everybody's welcome to come so that we can try to help them get well. Our template is that patients come and are seen initially by either myself, or if we have a nurse practitioner available, we do that. Then they are prescribed a comprehensive treatment plan, including physical therapy, chiropractic, acupuncture, massage therapy, modalities such as ultrasound, e-stim, traction. We have an anatomotor table. I even have a laser. We've got all kinds of cool stuff. Nutrition and lifestyle education is a huge part of what we do. We have CIRS coaching available, counseling, because many of the people do have issues. We offer prayer, and we also have supplements and medications that we can give the patients for free. So what are the types of patients treated? Acute and chronic pain, neck and back pain, joint injuries, muscle strains, migraines, headaches, and fibromyalgia. A lot of our patients are either Hispanic or Haitian, and so we have to have a lot of interpreters to help with that. So it's a very, very interesting patient mix and group. So we started in 2015 treating CIRS at our free clinic. I started in 2015 with this mother and daughter, Aaliyah, who was one of our cases, who presented with fibromyalgia. They had no insurance and could not afford to come to my regular medical practice. Each failed their VCS test and had 13 out of 13 symptom complexes positive. I was able to obtain some basic labs from the local healthcare system, and those are listed here, because they could do those in-house. But I was unable to convince LabCorp, Quest, or the healthcare system to do any of our other free CIRS labs for free. They begged me to help them, and another daughter, as I mentioned, had similar symptoms, wasn't local. They functioned with very great difficulty and did not know how they were going to continue working, how to pay their bills, and basically how are they going to survive if I didn't help them. So you're all familiar with our CIRS protocol, the treatment pyramid that Richie developed. And so we're going to take a look at how we're going to see these patients based on that protocol. So first off, screening patients. The history and exam have to be consistent with fibromyalgia to come to be seen at our free pain clinic because we deal with pain patients. So I do a detailed history of their prior treatments and exposures, current medications, supplements, substances. We do VCS testing at vcstest.com because they've offered it for free for us. We give the patients a handout with instructions and we review those in detail. We prefer the large screen of a computer versus the phone, but some patients just don't have access to a computer, so they have to go to a friend or use a library. Sometimes we'll use our office computer to help them if we're really desperate. Remember that 98% accuracy for the VCS test. If they fail column C, have to see more than 6, or D, have to see more than 5, even with just one eye. There's a 1.5% false positive rate. There's an 8% false negative rate, which I'm sure all of you, as myself, in my regular practice, have tons of patients who can pass the VCS test but are still very sick. The VCS correlates with retinal artery blood flow to the optic nerve and retina. We consider treating them if they are VCS negative but have very strong history and symptoms. We also do a symptom cluster analysis on their first visit. Remember that 6 out of 13 clusters need to be positive to have a workup, but if you have 8 out of 13 clusters positive, it's 98% probability that you have CIRS. So if you combine together VCS testing and cluster analysis, if they're both fails, then you can be 100% certain that the person has CIRS. This is the symptom questionnaire. You're probably all familiar with that. This is just the one I use at my office and at the free clinic, where we divide the symptoms up into the 13 clusters that Scott McMahon has previously published. Testing. We can get some free basic labs from the local health system. As I said, CIRS labs are not affordable for any of these people. I do get nasal cultures donated by Microbiology DX, so big thanks to Joe Musto and his organization for supporting us. Medicaid patients in Florida have to go to LabCorp, and we've been successful at getting all the CIRS testing covered by Medicaid. So some of the patients I will be able to have some of the CIRS testing labs performed. Remember that Quest is preferred for some of the tests like TGF-1, C4A, C3A, VEGF, and VIP. So those results from LabCorp may not be so helpful. NeuroQuant and GD are not affordable for this population, and Medicaid will not cover them. We've tried, we've written letters, we've called, it just is impossible. Remember that, though, in medicine, even 2 + 2 is 4, and so if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, it probably is a duck. So where do you start? Well, the protocol remains the same in a free clinic, just with some modifications. We do get informed consent, and I document that. Step 1 is the most difficult, removing yourself from exposure. So here's the questions. What do you do when the patient can't afford to test their home and you can't get free test kits for them? And I've tried. What do you do when the patient is staying with someone or in their car because they're homeless? What do you do if they are able to do some basic fungal testing, for example, and it shows a bad hurts me too score, and the landlord does not care? What do you do when they're living in their own home and it's a water damaged building and they can't afford to do any remediation or even think about purchasing an iAdapt Air? So how do you work around step 1? Well, you got to develop relationships with your local HVAC professionals that you've trained and send your paying patients to call in a favor, which I do a lot. And I have a great organization named Cool Air that I work with here in Fort Myers, and they will go out to my patients' homes for my medical practice, but also for my free clinic, and won't charge them. Develop relationships with local IEPs to do brief free inspections, and I have some great IEPs that help with that. Develop relationships with local remediation professionals to help on a case-by-case basis with some reduced prices. I don't expect them to do it for free, but maybe help out. Write letters to landlords. I do this all the time to get the place remediated per our standards, or get the patient out of the lease. But then, if you get them out of the lease, where are they going to go? Maybe the next place will be worse. Teach patients how to clean to remove actinos and other biotoxins. And we've been doing more of this recently, and I have a protocol written up that some of you have seen on how to go about doing this with our patients, and it's been very effective. You also have to start treatment while you're working on step 1 because it takes a long time to resolve this and a lot of persistence. Lifestyle education is critical. Patients in this demographic are often not eating very well and are obese. They may be using substances such as tobacco, alcohol, illegal drugs. So what do you think the #1 drug of abuse is at my free pain clinic? Ibuprofen. My average patient takes 30 ibuprofen a day. If a little is good, a lot must be better. And you can imagine the side effects from all of that. We spend extensive time teaching them about what to eat and what to do. So having a lifestyle educator is a hugely helpful thing if you're going to undertake taking care of this patient population. What do you do when the patient is going to several food pantries to survive? You have to teach them what to get at the food pantries and what not to get. Food stamps are a blessing, but you still have to teach people what to buy because they tend to not buy the right things. Step 2 is binders. So we started using pure CSM that was supplied by our local pharmacy, Apothecary 360 here in Fort Myers. They were very generous, but soon the patient volume got enough that it became too financially difficult to supply that. And I was able to get WellCall from an organization called AmeriCARES. So AmeriCARES is a international ministry organization that sends medications all over the world to ministries, missionaries. They also help free and charitable clinics here in the United States, and I'm able to get free medications from them. And so one day I found WellCall on their list, and I ordered a ton. And so I've still got a bunch of it. I'm trying to get some more now from the company. We also have WellCall powder if we need to do WellCall water for sensitive patients. Again, I'm hoping to eventually convince Daiichi Sankyo to donate WellCall. So far, I haven't been able to connect with a human being to talk to who will do that. GoodRx, if you're familiar with them or not, is an organization that patients can order mostly generic things from at greatly reduced prices. Colesivam, which is the generic for WellCall, you can get 180 tablets for $90 locally at like a pharmacy like Walgreens or CVS, but they have a mail order option where it's $40. So basically for $40 a month, patients can go on WellCall if you don't have the ability to get any for free for them. The typical side effect problems are encountered, mostly constipation and GI issues. I am able to provide free magnesium oxide for problematic constipation that's not responding to the usual measures that we use. Supplements and meds. So these are provided free to our patients. They're encouraged to make a small donation. I think that having a financial buy-in is pretty important for a lot of the patients. Just $1 or $2. The clinic purchases these, except recently had a donation from Swanson, and they were very generous and gave me $1,000 worth of supplements, which was cool. I'm hoping that'll continue. We give them the following things: a multivitamin, selenium, zinc picolinate, D3 based on their blood levels, NAC, turmeric, milk thistle, a probiotic, and magnesium glycinate if needed. They also receive molecularly distilled omega-3 from either Swanson or VitaCost, and they have to do pre-treatment, as we do with most of our patients, 2.4 grams EPA, 1.8 grams of DHA for 5 to 7 days before starting the WellCall. And this is a critical part that we hammer into patients over and over again because otherwise they have problems. I do have sleep supplements available, including melatonin, 5-HTP, theanine, a product called Sleep Essentials that has some melatonin and valerian and some other things in it, and taurine. So we can usually concoct some kind of sleep remedy for them because, of course, most of our patients are not sleeping, and we got to get them to sleep. I do have MP thyroid samples from Acela Pharmaceuticals. They've been very generous, and they provide me with a lot of MP thyroid. And I have other medications from AmeriCARES, including cyclobenzaprine, Flexeril, tizanidine, which is Xanaflex, amitriptyline. So if you can't get people to sleep the other way, I give them something to knock them out. We also have some levothyroxine and anti-inflammatories for some of our pain patients. Step 3, treat with MARCoNS. Treat the MARCoNS. Well, first you have to test for the MARCoNS. And I usually wait a minimum of 1 month of treatment with the well coil before I do that. There's some reasons for that. One is to make sure the patients are really going to comply and come back, and I'm not wasting a free test kit on someone who's not going to be doing this. The nasal cultures, again, are supplied by Microbiology DX. If they're positive and they're out of exposure, we'll treat them with EDTA and colloidal silver per the protocol, usually for 90 days. And I can get that at a reduced cost from Apothecare 360 and sometimes other compounding pharmacies, but they're our main helper with this. The incidence and treatment outcomes are very similar to other practices and populations, so I won't go through that. But getting them out of exposure is the critical issue because teaching them how to remediate for actinos is super important because the MARCoNS is coexisting with all these organisms. And so if you don't ever get it out of their place, they just keep turning up positive. Step 4 is getting rid of wheat. Well, this is a lot harder than you would think. Removing gluten and gliadin and the rest of wheat is so important. And so why is wheat so bad? So just kind of a quick rabbit trail here. I learned about this because I didn't know anything about how they grow wheat or, wheat is a biblical grain. I mean, it should be good for you. Why is it so bad? Well, in the United States here in the 90s, they started spraying the wheat crop with glyphosate. And so we now think it's the gluten glyphosate complex that's really making people so sick. But wheat is a very high glycemic food. It's the highest glycemic food you can have. So we really don't want people to have it for multiple reasons. But going wheat-free in this population is challenging because wheat is cheap. So they're going to food pantries, they have food stamps, they're buying cheap stuff or getting cheap stuff for free, and then mostly it's wheat. Then you've got cultural issues, like how do you tell an Hispanic person you can't have your flour tortillas anymore? They don't want to hear it. So a lifestyle educator, again, is very helpful to keep focused and make the changes more practical for the patients. Correcting androgens, well, we can't afford to test any of that. So if there are hormonal or adrenal symptoms are persisting, sometimes I can get them free saliva testing through ZRT, which we'll do. And then if they can afford bioidentical hormones, we can prescribe that through Apothecare 360. Correcting ADH and osmolality, well, we can't afford to measure any of that, ADH and copeptin. So we assume that it's off, and we just really talk to them a lot about water intake and changing the kind of water that they're drinking, because a lot of them are drinking out of plastic water bottles, which is no good. So if they can afford it, and they can get permission from the landlord to lease a reverse osmosis system under the kitchen sink, Culligan will do that locally here for like $21 a month. There's also portable RO systems that you can find on Amazon. If they can't get an RO system, then I tell them to take jugs and go to the grocery store machine at Publix, because that's RO, and they can fill the jugs from that. And they have to eliminate dehydrating beverages such as Gatorade, Powerade, which are full of poisons, right? And then also too much coffee, tea, that's dehydrating. So we try to get them to drink more water. MMP9, VEGF, we can't afford to measure those. So we assume they're abnormal and put people on a low amylose diet routinely for 1 month. And then also high doses of omega-3s as we covered before. Can't afford to measure any of the C3A, C4A, TGF1. We just hope they correct with treatment. So what about VIP? So far I've had 9 patients who have done low-dose VIP for their MCAS or MCSS symptoms, and I've had great results with that. I've had 3 patients who have done regular VIP, which we're going to talk about in a short time here with some case studies, and I've had great results with them. This is financially challenging. I mean, these people wind up putting this on their credit cards. They don't know how they're going to pay for VIP. VIP is expensive. You have to ensure that the environment is safe, so I won't put them on it if their environment is contaminated or we don't know. They should be able to pass a VCS, although sometimes that's impossible to ever get them to pass it. And then their MARCoNS has to be gone. I get informed consent, as we would in our regular practice. And then we monitor GGT and lipase per protocol. The patient has to pay for those, so they have to know up front that's another cost. Fortunately, the lab cost for that is not horribly expensive. And they have to follow up a minimum of monthly with me for me to continue to write the prescription. Challenges. So, out of each 100 patients I see at my free clinic, this is what happens. 50 never return after 1 or 2 visits. It's very disheartening. Another 25 never returned after the first 1 or 2 months. Very disheartening. But maybe you see that in your regular practice too, to some degree. You may not see a patient for many months because either they've moved away, they have no gas money, they're in jail, they're in rehab for drug abuse, or they have no transportation. So you have to kind of work and be patient with people. So of the 25 out of the 100 that are left, compliance is a huge issue. So we use a CIRS coach, lifestyle coach, we do follow-up calls, we do anything we can to continue on with us. There's environmental challenges galore. At least 10, though, out of the 100 will have life-changing outcomes that we know of. That's 1 out of 10 patients. They're worth it. You just have to persevere, and you can have really great outcomes treating uninsured and underinsured and low-income patients, and they really appreciate it. You can change their life. So let's look at some outcomes. Case study 1 was Stacy. She was the one that had severe fibro and PMR and couldn't get out of the chair and was a mess. So Stacy could not afford any of the CIRS labs. Her basic labs, though, showed that she had low free T4 and kind of a mid-range free T3, and her TPO was negative. So she was treated with Welchol, MP thyroid, some CBD for pain. We actually had some CBD we could give her, and the EDA silver for Marcons. And believe it or not, her vision began to improve, and she became more mobile. And she got out of the wheelchair. She was then able to start attending physical therapy and all the other therapies that we do at our free clinic, 1 to 2 times a week, and started getting stronger. Her home was tested for fungi, actually had her do that, and she was able to put it on a credit card, and it was negative. And so Stacy wanted to go on VIP. She had done some research on it on her own, and I didn't really see a reason why not to, because she was such a disaster. We needed to do something. So she was put on VIP 4 sprays a day per protocol. She used her credit card. I don't know how she ever did it. And she had incredible improvement in her pain and physical brain function and her vision. I mean, she got dramatically better on VIP. Well, then she did some more studying and thought she might have cavitation. So she got a 3D cone CT done, and lo and behold, she was right. She had 6 cavitations, and I arranged for her to go out to Austin, Texas, to Dr. Nunnally, and she had surgery there. He gave her a nice discount, and she had great improvement after that. So Stacy continues on to improve with VIP at about 2 sprays a day. She's still in therapy. She has made incredible progress. There's somebody's life that we're able to change. Her daughter, Allison, is 15 years old. She was VCS negative, but she had 8 out of 13 clusters positive. Her routine lab tests were okay. We know that she had been in the same exposures as Stacy. She had brain fog and severe fatigue and vertigo. She was treated with Welchol and EDTA silver, and she had incredible improvement. This girl looks amazing now. Her natural son, Michael, age 16, was 3 months premature and put on a ventilator and steroids for a long time. And he had developmental delays. He was diagnosed with autism. He had vaccine reactions, psoriasis. So Stacy's like, can you see if Michael maybe has some of this? So his VCS test was positive. He had 5 out of 13 clusters positive, which, you would think that's not enough. But she had treated him in the past with oral ETA, IV glutathione, and, unfortunately, fluconazole. He was on Medicaid, so I was able to get his labs, and he was a 4353. His MSH was 28, MMP9 was 747, and the TGF-1 per LabCorp was 6360, which is still pretty high. So I knew that he had CIRS. So we treated him with Welchol and EDTA silver because he had Marcons, and he had incredibly improved brain function and behavior according to his mom and what I could observe in interacting with him. His MSH went up to 43, and he was able to start job training, and now he has a girlfriend. There is someone for everyone. She's got developmental delays too, but they're so cute together. Her adopted son, Hunter, is age 20 from the foster care system, and he has severe autism and has had vaccine reactions. His past treatment was with DMSA, which helped a lot. He unfortunately had antifungal several times. His VCS test was positive. He had 5 out of 13 of the clusters positive, but his function is very poor. His Medicaid lab showed he was an 11,352, and his MSH was 18, MMP9 540, his homocysteine was 28, ADH was 0, and he had positive anti-gliadin antibodies. So he was treated with Welchol, EDTA silver, some methylfolate, methyl B12, and a gluten-free diet, and had incredible improvement in his behavior and brain function. And he's hopefully going to start job training now too. They built a small home, and the entire family deteriorated. This happens. So it tested positive for fungi. The HERTSME2 was 20, and there was a large amount of the human habitat actinos. So the fungi were removed by a remediation company that gave her the tools to do it for kind of a DIY remediation because there was no active water intrusion found. And the actinos were removed per the protocol that I wrote up. And now the family is doing incredibly well again. Of course, they're still taking some Welchol. Christina, our homeless person living in the van, was treated with Welchol very slowly because of all her sensitivities. A half a tablet 3 times a day is the most she's ever tolerated. And she's placed on diet and supplements. Her Marcons was negative, believe it or not. The van was cleaned with some kind of ozone and biocide on her own. No HEPA was used, and she got worsening symptoms, of course. She moved all over the country trying to find a safe place to stay. She finally got a job in the Florida Keys caring for an elderly woman in a 3-story home. Now, this was a miracle that this ever happened. And she had some improvement there, but then she convinced the lady to test the home and found that it was very high in fungi and actinos. So the woman paid for an iAdapt Air, actually several of them, and an IEP inspection that found numerous water intrusions. The son showed up and doesn't want to do the repairs, so Christina may have to leave there and go back to living in her van. Aaliyah, who is our hairstylist, started CSM and supplements and then progressed to Marcon's treatment. She was placed on Synthroid because her TPO antibodies were over 1,000. I don't like to use porcine thyroid when the TPO are very high. The HERTSME2 on her home was low. We weren't able to test her work. I wrote a letter. The landlord had the work inspected. Who knows by who or what. They did find some mold and it was somehow remediated. We're not sure how. But in May of 2017, Aaliyah was having steady improvement. She was 70% better. Her VCS test was negative. She had done some research and wanted to go on VIP. She put it on a credit card. She started with 4 sprays a day. All of her fibro pain disappeared. She started working out. She lost 40 pounds. It was amazing transformation. They moved into a new home that they were somehow able to build, a small home. And the VIP was weaned down to 1 per day and then off. She was started on bioidentical hormones after we did some saliva testing, and it showed that she had high estrogen and low progesterone, kind of a common pattern with young women. She was still on her Synthroid. She wanted to get pregnant. She now has 2 children. It's amazing. So she's still dealing with contaminated salons, which is going to be an ongoing problem as a hairstylist. So in summary, CIRS patients can be successfully treated with modifications to the Shoemaker protocol based on their lack of insurance and or limited finances. Whenever possible, of course, the standard CIRS testing should be completed. Dealing with step 1 can be challenging in this population. Having a treatment team and assuring frequent follow-up is essential for compliance. Lifestyle changes are difficult when finances are limited, but they're not impossible. Generic Colesivam is available from GoodRx, and some pharmacies will help with reduced costs for EDTA silver nasal treatment. So many thanks again to Microbiology DX and Joe Musto for the support of our program. Wonderful outcomes are possible if you take the time to help those in need. So what's our future? We want to grow this into a full-time facility, reproduce into other locations in Florida and around the United States. We want to partner with donors and other nonprofits to create a safe place for financially challenged CIRS patients to stay at no cost. This is a huge vision for several of us in our CIRS network. We want to create a place where they can go and heal for a limited time and experience a turnaround in their life. And we want to advocate for the vulnerable so that laws will be created to protect them from landlords, employers, and others who don't care that their environment is sick. So what will you do? So this is a verse from Matthew 25:40 in the Bible. The king will answer and say to them, truly I say to you, to the extent that you did it to one of these brothers of mine, even the least of them, you did it to me. So can you look for opportunities to help those with CIRS in financial need, the least of them? Can you devote some time in your week to help CIRS patients without the resources to attend your regular practice, kind of as a tithing, as a way to give back? Maybe you want to open a free clinic to help CIRS patients in need. Well, I'll teach you how to do that. And here's another verse that is a few verses later from the first one. And he will answer them, truly I say to you, to the extent that you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. So to God's, scales, there are acts of omission and acts of commission. And the acts of omission are just as bad as the acts of commission. So think about that. Do you have the capability to maybe help some of these people? Here's my contact information, my website, practice, my personal emails listed there, my office number. If you feel led to donate financially to help grow this free clinic, as some of our surviving mold members do, you can do so on the website or contact me. And then for information on our Christian CIRS network, if you want to learn more about that, please contact me or Jenny Johnson. And there's her email address. And I thank you for